أنا لها لا أنثني عند الصعاب. أنا لها نقولها نحن الشباب.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أهلا ومرحبا. Welcome again to our new series Arabic Grammar with An-Nahwu Al-wadih. Today's lesson we are going to be looking at the topic تقسيم الفعل باعتبار زمنه. تقسيم الفعل باعتبار زمنه means the classification of the verb according to its time. Now, on this regard, the verb is classified into three categories or classifications. The first is al-fi'lu al-madi, means the past tense. Then the second is al-fi'lu al-mudari', means the present tense. Then the third is fi'lu al-amri, that is the imperative or the commanding tense. Now, let's look at the explanation to the three categories or classification of verb in Arabic language through the qaida. The qaida says, al-fi'lu al-madi huwa kullu fi'lin yadullu ala husuli amalin fi zaman al-madi. That is for the first one, which is al-fi'lu al-madi. So for the second one, which is al-fi'lu al-mudari'u, the qaida says, الفعل المضارع هو كل فعل يدل على حصول عمل في الزمن الحاضر أو المستقبل ولا بد أن يكون مبدوءا بحرف من أحرف المضارعة وهي الهمزة والنون والياء والتاء. Then for the last one, which is fi'l al-amr, the qaida says, fi'l al-amri huwa kullu fi'lin yutlabu bihi husuli shay'in fi zaman al-hadir. So this is the qaida that is explaining the three classification of verb in Arabic language according to the time. Now let's look at the explanation to the qaida. The first one says, al-fi'lu al-madi, that is the past tense, huwa kullu fi'lin. It is any type of verb, yadullu ala husuli amalin, which shows the occurrence of an action fi zamani al-madi, in the past tense. For instance, when we say dhahaba, he went, kharaja, he came out, sami'a, he heard, fataha, he opened, and so on. Meaning, whenever a verb in Arabic language is in its original form, like dhahaba, sami'a, kharaja, and so on, such verb is considered as fi'lu al-madi, that is the past tense. And similarly, whenever we want to conjugate the verb in the past tense with the pronouns in Arabic language, the pronouns are always required to be attached to the verb from the suffix side, that is from the end of the verb. For instance, you want to say I went, you went, or we went. So we are going to attach the pronouns I, you, and we from the end of the verb, not from the beginning. So you are going to say dhahabtu, meaning I went, dhahabta, you went, dhahabna, we went, and so on, dhahabtum, you went, that is in plural form. So we are going to attach the pronouns ta, then ti, and tum, and so on from the end of the verb. So that is for the first one, which is fi'lu al-madi, the past tense. Now let's look at the explanation to the second type, which is al-fi'lu al-mudari'. The qaida says al-fi'lu al-mudari', the present tense, huwa kullu fi'lin. It is any type of verb yadullu ala husuli amalin, which shows the occurrence of an action fi zamani al-hadir, in the present time, awil mustaqbali, or the future. Now, how do you recognize a verb to be in the present tense? How do you know whether a verb is in the present tense or not? So the qaida says, وَلَا بُدَّ أَنْ يَكُونَ مَبْدُوءًا بِحَرْفٍ مِنْ أَحْرُفِ الْمُضَارِعَةِ وَهِيَ الْهَمْزَةُ وَالنُّونُ وَالْيَاءُ وَالتَّاءُ. That you will be able to recognize a verb in the present tense through its ability to begin with one of the four letters. We have al-hamza, wal-noon, wal-ya, wal-ta. So whenever the verb begins with any of these four letters, hamza, noon, ya, and ta, such verb is considered as al-fi'lu al-mudari'u, the present tense in Arabic language. For instance, we will say adhabu, meaning I am going. Yadhabu, he is going. Tadhabu, you are going, or she is going. Then nadhabu, we are going. So whenever a verb begins with any of these four letters, automatically such verb is considered as fi'lu al-mudari, the present tense, without any of the four letters being part of the original letter of such verb. So this is al-fi'lu al-mudari, the present tense. Now let's look at the explanation to the third category, which is fi'lu al-amr. That is the imperative tense. The qaida says al-amri huwa kullu fi'lin, that the imperative tense or the commanding tense, it is any type of verb yutlabu bihi husuli shay'in, which is used to request for an action fi zamani al-mustaqbali, in the future tense. For instance, when we say idhhab, that is go, iftah, opened, isma, listen, ukhruj, come out, and so on. So these verbs, they are used to request for actions in Arabic language. So these are the explanations to the three categories of verbs in Arabic language. The first is fi'lu al-madi huwa kullu fi'lin yadullu ala husuli amalin fi az-zaman al-madi. Al-fi'lu al-mudari huwa kullu fi'lin yadullu ala husuli amalin fi az-zaman al-hadir aw al-mustaqbal. ولا بد أن يكون مبدوءا بحرف من أحرف المضارعة وهي الهمزة والنون والياء والتاء. Then the last one, فعل الأمر هو كل فعل يطلب به حصول شيء في الزمن المستقبل. So these are the explanations to the three classifications of verb in Arabic language according to the time. Now let's look at some few examples that we have drafted out from the textbook. The first is jara al-kalbu, meaning the dog moved or walked. So the word jara, it is known as al-fi'l. Which type of fi'l? Fi'lu al-madi, because the action is in the past tense. So the verb jara is known as fi'lu al-madi. Then the second example is waqafa al-rajulu, meaning the man stood. So the verb waqafa, it is also considered as al-fi'lu al-madi, the past tense, because it is referring to an action in the past. Now, the next is aksilu yadayya, meaning I am washing my hand. So the verb aksilu, it is considered as fi'lu al-mudari, the present tense. Why? Because it's in the present time, and also it begins with the letter hamza from the beginning. Now the next is il'ab bil kurrati, meaning play with the ball. So the verb il'ab is known as fi'lu al-amr, the imperative tense, because it is used to request for an action in the future. So these are the few examples we are going to look at in this lesson. So inshallah, here we are going to end this lesson, and we are urging each and every one of us to try and carry out some of the few exercises under this lesson. And please, when you find any difficulty or any problem in carrying out any of the exercises, please feel free to drop your comments and your question under the comments section. We are going to be glad to respond to your questions. So inshallah, here we are going to end this lesson. See you in the next lesson. Salamu alaikum warahmatullah.